Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call the October 19th regular meeting of the Encinitas Planning Commission to order at 6. I'll say 6. I'll still say 6. It's 6:01, perhaps. Should we do a roll call, or should I just note that Commissioner Dalton is absent today? And so I'll let the record reflect that 4 of the 5 sitting planning commissioners are present today, and we like to begin each meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. We start each meeting with oral communications, where anyone wishing to speak on a topic not on tonight's agenda may request to do so by filling out one of the white speaker slips. You'll find them in the back of the room there. If you hand that to our clerk, and now anything comes up in oral communications, comments or questions cannot be addressed or discussed by the Planning Commission or the staff, but they may be referred to staff for further contact. Dina, do we have any oral communications this evening?
We do. We have one speaker this evening, and that's Geraldine Kessler.
All right. Ms. Kessler?
I would like to speak about the potential density bonus project on Melba Road that is slated to remove 175 mature trees, 30 smaller trees and native shrubs, and demo 3 beautiful historical homes built in 1938, along with another built in the 80s. We just learned from the Mobility and Transportation Commission that this project is estimated to generate 260 new daily trips. This is very distressing for the neighborhood. Not only will we be losing our tree canopy, we will have to deal with this traffic nightmare situation. The narrow Melba Street can barely accommodate what we have currently with the traffic of the 3 schools and in the morning and the afternoon. All the tree preservation that our MASH group works so hard on will just prove a waste of time once they start the grading process on this beautiful piece of property. The roots of the trees will surely be impacted, and all the wildlife that lives on these trees will no longer have a beautiful home. The beautiful symphony of birds that we hear on our early morning walks will be silenced and will be replaced by the bulldozers and the long, loud beeps from construction. A year ago, the developer and owner manipulated one of the struggling neighbors, a widower and mother of disabled daughter, to grant him an easement. He did this by throwing the minimal amount of money at her. This only caused animosity in our neighborhood against her for her decision last year. It also changed the entire trajectory of this environmental nightmare project once she did that. The owner and developer have recently contacted several seniors in our neighborhood to set up meetings, something he should have done 3 years ago. And he wants us to sign things that say we won't disapprove of the project, and still lowballing the neighborhood, and no consideration for preservation of this sacred Encinitas land. Preservation mandate is necessary. If we don't make rules on preservation now, there is no getting any of it back, and our tragic fate is sealed as just another soulless, lifeless, miserably crowded, paved-over city like the others up the coast. Please help the community and acquire this property with soft green infrastructure funding, a bond, community funding. It has potential to be an outdoor teaching STEM lab for the area schools and the overcrowded Oakcrest Middle School, or an annex to the Botanical Gardens, or park-like open space similar to San Diego Park in Solana Beach. Please do not pass up on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Little, if any, work would have to be done on this property. It could be kept as is, unlike the heavy lifting needed for the Pacific View project to get it launched. The majority of the members of the community would support the preservation, unlike the very little support for the homes being squished onto this sacred land. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kessler. Next up, actually, no, before this, we were considering changes to the agenda. Now, I know initially staff had put the Good On Ya case in the consent calendar. I requested it to be moved out. I don't really have any objections to it. If we want more information, or we do. So we'll move on to our consent calendar, which has one item, and that is project, by the way, I'll lead off. These items are considered non-controversial or routine in nature. All consent calendar items are typically voted on in a single motion without any staff presentation, comment, or deliberation. However, if a member of the public or a commissioner requests a consent item to be heard, this item will be removed and heard immediately thereafter. So tonight's consent calendar is made up of just one item, and that is item 6A, the LaRue Twin Homes in 2143 Oxford Avenue in Cardiff by the Sea. And it's a public hearing to consider a design review permit and coastal development permit for the demolition of an existing one-story duplex and detached four-car garage, and construct two new attached single-family residences on two underlying lots. I know these lots, they're 25 feet wide. Dina, has anyone requested?
No.
Does anyone want to pull this?
I do.
Okay, let's pull it. We'll get a staff report. It's an interesting learning. I've seen enough of these, and they're shocking how much you can cram into 25 feet.
Exactly. I just went for the learning.
All right, well, in that case, hold on, I have a piece of paper for this. We will, are there any disclosures on this? If not, we'll have a staff presentation by, I'm not sure who. Oh, thank you, Sarah, sorry.
Hello, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Cadona, Associate Planner with the City of Encinitas, and I will be presenting the LaRue Twin Homes. So the scope includes the demolition. Thank you. The scope includes the demolition of the existing duplex and four-car garage with the construction of two new attached single-family residences and attached ADUs and site improvements on two underlying legal lots. And the project requires a design review and coastal development permit. So here is an aerial of the property, which is located on lots 37 and 38 of Oxford Avenue. Both lots are zoned R11 and currently have an existing duplex with the detached garage, as you can see in the picture. So here's a street view of the project site. The photo above is taken from Oxford Avenue looking east, and the photo on the bottom is taken from the alleyway looking west towards Oxford Avenue. So this slide shows the site plan, and the proposed project meets all required residential development standards. So here's the proposed west elevation. This is the proposed north elevation. The proposed south elevation. And the east elevation. So a CPP meeting was held on June 14th, 2022, and there were 5 attendees, and 1 attendee contacted the applicant prior to the meeting. All these attendees had questions and comments regarding the survey's location of the property lines and what those construction impacts would be. So the concerns were addressed by the applicant, as the applicant sent a copy of the topographic survey to the concerned neighbors and also shared their contact information of the property owner and the general contractor for any concerns or questions during the construction phase of noise, parking, access through the alleyway, et cetera. So staff recommends approval based upon the findings written in the staff report, and the project will be subject to the conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Questions for staff? Nothing? Not really. It's an interesting, I know the RS-15s also have the same thing. All these Cardiff lots go back to 1924 or earlier, and they didn't think you needed more than 25 feet. But, cool. Well, I will consider a motion. Anyone?
Motion to approve.
Was there any public comment?
Oh, yeah. Were there public comments? I'm very sorry.
No public comment.
Oh, wait.
Oh. Can I ask a simple question? No, come up to the mic, please, sir. We ran into this. I have to apologize. Last meeting got a little out of hand. People not at the mics, and if you're speaking from the audience, it doesn't go on the public record
That's
because we
fine.
can't hear
Just
you.
a simple question. You said that there were some people that were given the contact information regarding parking and noise and things of that nature. How can I get on that list? In other words, I live close by, but we were unable to make the last meeting because we were out of town.
Okay.
You can actually, when the item is completed, you can speak with Sarah, the planner who just presented, and she can give you the
Perfect.
contact
Thank you.
information.
There's also a mailing list. If you go to I Want To on the Encinitas website, you can request emails from all the different types of things we'll send out. And I recommend, if you're interested, select them all. And you'll get the agendas for all the different meetings coming up. If you don't like them, delete them. But if you read them, something of interest may pop up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair, I had actually, can I ask staff a question?
Yeah, go for it. We're still
We're still okay?
okay.
All right. So the way the rules work in the zoning, there's parking on the top from the alley, but the two ADUs do not require parking. Is that correct? And that's per the code?
That's correct.
Okay.
Per state law, if it's within a half mile of public transit, the ADUs aren't required to provide parking.
So in this case, the half mile is from the train station? Or what's the definition of the
This would be from the closest bus stop.
bus stop?
And that's nearly everywhere, except for a few places in Leeuwenhoek.
Yeah. Yes, where there's some density. But yes.
I'll tell you what.
So it's,
Wait.
If it's
If you'd like
within
to speak,
a
I'm going to
half
ask you to
mile
fill out
of
one of
even a
these
bus
slips
stop?
and come up to the mic.
that qualifies as a transit center?
Oh, Bart, actually, yeah, I should have started with the applicant. You want to, this is the architect?
Hi,
for this?
I'm Bart Smith, architect with DZM Partners. Megan Lawler is the project manager and designer. We're both here, and there's an owner's rep. But there's two spaces in each garage for the units, and then we've shown that there's a parallel space for each ADU adjacent to the alley. Now, it's in the driveway of the residence, but we have shown that there's 3 spaces for each unit. And so we aren't within a half mile of a major transit center, so that's how we showed the parking.
Thank you.
They
I
don't
think-
have to provide the parking for the ADU. They're saying that they're parking in the alley, basically behind the parking stall. So that's
Right.
that's their
So
choice to do that.
That's their choice to do
Okay.
that. He's not required.
Right, but they could park on Oxford, or they could park in the alley.
Yeah, when I first moved here, I lived on Oxford. It was,
We're not actually proposing alley parking. It's a space adjacent to the alley on the property.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so it's off the alley on the
Yes.
property.
Yes.
Got it.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Cardiff is full of these developments. There's a motion on the floor, which I'll second.
We actually, sorry to
Oh,
interrupt.
public speaker. We have public speakers? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. Jeanette Prince.
Jeanette, come on up. And thank you.
I think it's great, it's all happening, but just wanted to know if we could be told when it's all going to happen, the day they're going to start working, because we just want to keep an eye, the property lines and when they start cutting away. We just want to know when that might start, so we keep an eye on things.
Fair enough.
Yep, that's all.
I'm not quite sure how we keep up with that,
So-
because that's variable.
Just
Sure, of course. It really is up to the applicant on when they would be submitting for their construction permits. So they still have to apply for building permits
Right.
as the next stage. And the timing is really up to the applicant on when they'd like to construct. So the applicant directly would be the person that you would want to be in contact with, or the
Okay.
homeowner.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers tonight?
We do not.
All right. I'm going to second this motion. Do we have any discussion before we vote? No? Let's call the question, please. All right, the motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner Dalton absent. And let's move on to our next item. So our next up is, excuse me, I'm wrong glasses. Next up is the, we have two items on our regular agenda. And first up is item 8A, which is the Good On Ya Cafe, case number multi 4710-2021. Thank you. Property is located at 1051 South Coast Highway 101 in Old Encinitas. This is a public hearing to consider permits for the expansion of an existing restaurant with alcohol service into the adjacent tenant space and an enclosed patio to allow for the sale of bottles of wine to go. Are there any disclosures? Hearing none, we'll begin with a staff report by, I think, Rachel Lindebrecht. Did I get that right?
You did indeed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So, good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public. My name is Rachel Lindebrecht, and today I will be presenting on item 8A, the Good On Ya Cafe project. The subject property, outlined here in red, is located off South Coast Highway 101, is within the Downtown Encinitas Specific Plan, and is zoned Downtown Encinitas Commercial Mixed 1. The project site is surrounded by commercial uses, including restaurants and retail to the north, south, and west, and a railroad corridor to the east, with residential uses located approximately 400 feet both east and west of the project site. The subject property was previously developed under the County of San Diego with a single-story multi-tenant commercial building, and since incorporation, a minor use permit and coastal development permit was approved and authorized alcohol service, type 41 beer and wine ABC license, for the existing Good On Ya Cafe restaurant. The applicant is proposing a minor use permit modification and coastal development permit for the expansion of the Good On Ya Cafe alcohol service into the adjacent tenant suite. The expansion would include the addition of retail sale of beer and wine for the off-site consumption in the adjacent retail tenant space, the addition of an alcohol service to an outdoor dining area within the existing outdoor patio, previously used as an office courtyard, and a waiting area within the existing front patio space. The addition of alcohol service to the permitted existing cafe dining table located directly in front of the proposed waiting area, and internal reconfigurations of portions of the existing floor plans for both of the tenant suites. Proposed alcohol service and hours of operation would be 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday through Wednesday, and 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday. And this is consistent with the existing ABC license allowed hours. The existing offices, which are behind Good On Ya Cafe, will remain as is, and no alcohol service is proposed therein. The applicant held a Citizen Participation Program meeting on August 7th, 2021, in accordance with Encinitas Municipal Code Section 2306. No members of the public attended the meeting, and no comments have been received in response to the project's public noticing or throughout the project's review process. The proposed project has been determined exempt from environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15301, which exempts the operation, permitting, licensing, and minor interior and exterior alterations to existing structures. The beer and wine service will be compatible with the adjacent commercial uses, and the project has been conditioned appropriately to ensure that the alcohol service will not have an adverse impact on surrounding uses or nearby neighborhoods. Therefore, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt the draft resolution of approval as written and approve the project. And this concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of clarification for staff? Or we'll have opportunities to ask more if need be. Go.
I do have a question. If now's not the right time, just let me know. I had a question about how the proposed use permit modification, if we approve it, interplays with the sidewalk cafe policy that expires in December. So what is that relationship? So if we approve the resolution as it's drafted, does that just allow the use and sale of alcohol in the cafe, the sidewalk cafe area until December of 2023, unless City Council changes the rules?
I think what you're referencing is the COVID dining space.
Yes.
What they have is a single table, which is a permitted cafe dining space within the right-of-way separate from their COVID dining location, which is what they're looking to permit. Let me
okay.
screen share real quick and just show you the location. So see the blue, the waiting area? This is where they're looking to expand this table right here. It's a separate permit from the COVID dining and would not be expiring at the same time as the COVID dining that you're identified for the end of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Here, I'll ask a further clarification on that. So if we approve this as proposed this evening, we're pretty much approving that after the 2023 expiration. Is that being approved as part of this permit, so it would carry on into 2024 without the need of that?
If I may.
It's confusing, sorry.
No, that's okay. There are as Rachel was mentioning, the COVID temporary encroachment permits that are the street dining that are taking up the parking spaces. That is completely separate and not subject to this permit. So we're not discussing that at all
Okay.
tonight. Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're not confirming it for ever after.
No, the only thing that is changing is the one table that is under our sidewalk cafe permit, which is also completely separate. However, I don't know if you recall, I believe it was a year ago or maybe a year and a half now, City Council allowed for alcohol to be served in sidewalk cafe permits, which have existed for quite some time in the city. But you have to modify your use permit or obtain a new use permit for that alcohol. So that's what this is covering, is the one table allowance. However, the sidewalk cafe permit has to maintain, the applicant still has to not let that expire and keep providing the insurance and things like that.
So is that similar to Roxy? I think we approved 2 tables outside.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Anna. So, I find this, I know Chris sorry, but we're moving on. I'm moving on too quickly. The applicant, Chris Buchanan, would you like to take the mic? Or whoever you've got speaking for you? Hi, Chris.
Thank
Much
you.
time as you need. I got you down for 10 minutes.
I think Anna clarified it really well. It is definitely confusing, but yeah, it's one table. It obviously makes it very difficult to seat people and be like, no, you can't have a drink here. You can have a drink 5 feet over here. So, yeah, and we're paying for that permit, and we'll keep it updated with insurance and all that jazz.
That's it?
Yeah.
Used up like 15 of your seconds.
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll open this to public comment. If we need you, we'll call you back, okay? I'm going to open public comment. And Dina, do we have any public comments?
We have no speakers on this
We have
item.
no speakers on this one. Well, I don't think you need to respond to that. I'm going to leave public comment open and if we have any questions for the owner, but honestly, I got nothing. These are good neighbors who've been with us for a long time. Into the Stars, were they still there for a while? I still have a T-shirt. It's a good space and a good use of the space. And you're a good neighbor and spot on. Can I hear a motion, perhaps?
I make a motion to approve.
All right,
So I just want to be clear that I understand. They have a liquor license already,
that's correct.
and they really haven't been able to fully utilize it because of their space constraints? Or
Well, now they've got the back patio, and they're also taking over the retail space, which from what I gather, is going to sell beer and wine, something that restaurants, by their ABC license, are usually allowed to. I remember, can't remember which one, it was Fish 101, it opened up in the corner, and they argued for that.
So the expansion is basically just into another space?
Correct. And it's the same one that faces their little courtyard.
Yeah, okay, got it. Thanks.
Well, I'll second this one. Any discussion, or we'll go to a vote? Okay, the vote is unanimous with the sitting commissioners, with Commissioner Dalton absent, and this case is closed. Thank you. Let me move on to the next big one. So now I think most everyone is here for item 8B, which is called The Captain. This is case number multi 4729-2021. It's located in north end of Old Encinitas at 158, 184, 186 North Coast Highway 101. Applicants RAF Pacifica Group, RBG, and I think you're represented today by Chris Miller. You here? This is a public hearing to consider a density bonus tentative map, a design review, a major use permit modification, and a coastal development permit, along with a sign program for the demolition of the existing development and construction of a new mixed-use development consisting of 45 residential condominium units, 41 market rate and 4 very low income, and 14 commercial condominium units, which has a restaurant, 7 retail, and 6 offices. And this will be in a 3-story podium building on a 2 basement level parking structure. And do we have any disclosures on this one?
No?
I did meet with the architect at one point
Okay.
to see the project, and that was all. I just looked
I've-
it over.
I've seen several presentations of this as it went along different iterations, and kudos to the developer. I mean, he's been everywhere with this thing. And I felt informed, but I always make a point of not sharing any of my feedback. And I shared that with the developer when I did see this. So I think we'll begin with a staff report by Esteban Donna. And tell me if I got your name right. Thank you.
You did, yes. Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. Again, my name is Esteban Dana, and tonight I'll be presenting the Captain mixed-use development. The project site is located along the North Coast Highway 101, north of A Street, and consists of 3 existing lots. The site is surrounded by residential and commercial uses and is located across the road from the railroad corridor to the east. The property is located within the commercial mix 2 zone within the North 101 corridor specific plan. The property is surrounded by a variety of residential and commercial zones and located within the coastal zone. The project requires the approval of 4 discretionary permits. These include density bonus tentative map, design review permit, coastal development permit, and the sign program. The project proposes the construction of 3 two-story podium buildings on a 2-basement level parking structure. The mixed-use development consists of 45 residential condominium units and 14 commercial condominium units. Of the 45 residential units, 41 are market rate and 4 are very low income units. Building A consists of 29 residential units along Melrose Avenue, and Building B consists of 6 office units and 1 restaurant unit, and finally, Building C consists of 7 retail units on the ground floor and 16 residential units on the second floor. The project complies with both the city's inclusionary housing requirements and the state's density bonus law for affordable housing units. The project requests density bonus per state bonus law, which allows a total of 2 incentives or concessions. The proposed project does not request any incentives or concessions. The law also allows for an unlimited number of waivers. The project requests 3 waivers. The first, for the requirement of a 20-foot setback for equipment and utilities along Melrose Avenue. The second, for a 5-foot reduction in the length of the proposed loading parking spaces. And the third, for the requirement of a 6-foot masonry wall along Melrose Avenue. The office units, as seen facing southwest along Highway 101, are located towards the northern portion of the property. And moving south, the middle segment of the frontage is where the restaurant unit is located. The southern half of the frontage is the location for the retail component at the street level and the residential units at the second level. Streetscape improvements include angled parking and landscaping, as well as a pedestrian-friendly sidewalk. Seen from street level, the garage is accessed at the property's northernmost point, with the main entrance to the office units immediately to the south. The design incorporates breaks in the building facades through the use of vertical and horizontal architectural variations, varied finish materials, and landscaping. The project is designed at a pedestrian-friendly scale, which is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The retail and residential component are seen facing northwest along Highway 101. The image shows the retail units along the street level with the residential units above. The placement of residential units along Melrose Avenue facing southeast provides a transition from the commercial mixed uses along Highway 101 to the residential character along Melrose Avenue. So the project is subject to and complies with the general commercial land use designation of the general plan, the commercial mixed 2 zone in the North 101 corridor specific plan, which includes the architectural and site design recommendations therein, Encinitas Municipal Code Titles 23, 24, and 30, the local coastal program, and state density bonus law. Please note that this property is not a housing element site and not subject to the R30 standards. The project is exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15332 for infill development projects. In addition, the project does not qualify for any of the exceptions under Section 15300.2 of the same guidelines. Notice of this public hearing was mailed, posted at City Hall, and posted on the city's website on October 6th. Staff received a total of 7 letters in support of the project. A citizen participation program meeting was held for this project on July 28th of 2022, where approximately 25 members of the public attended. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution and approve the project. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Here's where we ask questions of staff for clarification. I've got a couple, but I don't need to start.
I do have a question about the commercial spaces. Are those required to remain in perpetuity, or could they be converted to residential in the future, or how is that?
So the way the permit is set up is that they are entitled as commercial spaces. Any future conversion would have to come back to the Planning Commission unless there's future state law that allows it. But at this point, it would have to come back for review.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a question. So it was described as condo units, the residential. Is that for sale or is that rental?
Typically, condo units are allowed to be sold individually, but it is up to the developer to decide how to move forward with that.
Thank you.
Does that mean he's filing a map?
Correct.
For the individual units?
Correct. Airspace condominium map.
For each individual unit, and also for the office and for the retail?
Correct.
Okay.
Question for Chair. I've got
Yeah.
a few questions for staff on the staff report. Is now the time, or do we hear from the applicant?
I think,
And we wait for our
well,
deliberation?
let's wait, let's just try and get over the broad strokes here.
Okay.
Because, I had one question about are the commercial spaces intended to be for rent or for sale?
Again, that would be up to the developer.
Okay.
They are eligible to sell them individually with a condominium map.
Okay. I remember the loft went that model for a while. Another question I have is, I'm looking at the streetscape improvements on 101, and I can't really quite figure out where they stop on the north end. The renderings all show it extending a little bit in front of Moto Deli, but the plans pretty much show the building goes right to the edge and everything kind of stops right there. So can you tell me which of those two concepts is correct?
Yes. There it is. Sorry. There. Okay, so it looks like it comes to past the property line, but perhaps I can defer to Mr. Vidalski.
No, our consultant has looked at the proposed development here and matched it with our streetscape improvements. We both have a driveway at the very northern end and the southern end of the project, along with the streetscape. The middle driveway goes away with this development, and everything is in conjunction with streetscape as far as the angled parking, the sidewalk, and the driveways.
Okay, I'm still confused on the northern end. I mean, the part just to the right of the office building where it extends out. Will it extend out or will it just stop? Because I know we have a sidewalk if you go past this and Caliber Collision, got another section which is developed with sidewalks that people park right at the end of it. There's no way through.
If this development goes before we would do this segment of streetscape, wherever the driveway ends up, we would adjust the streetscape project if it has to go north to make it match.
Okay, thank you. But just to be clear, the applicant's not building that part that extends north? Or are they? Well, I'll tell you what, let's table this for now. Maybe the applicant will touch on this when he makes his presentation. I have no further questions for clarification at this time. Bob?
I was going to wait until the presentation from the
Yeah.
applicant and then ask some staff questions during our deliberation period.
Right, I think it's all questions once we get started.
Yes.
I'd say let's now hear from the applicant if we could. I think it says Chris Miller is the representative, or is that mistaken? Or it could be you, Adam, I don't know. Would the applicant like to make a presentation? We'll give you 10 minutes. If you don't need it.
It's a different Chris.
Oh, sorry? I'm sorry, it said Chris Miller. I'm sure I copied this from our,
Here, there he is. Hey, Chris. There's a lot of Chris's in the world.
I know.
Great. So we have a slide deck that we're going to propose.
Yeah,
It'll be a
let's
little redundant, I
Hold
think.
the timer until we get,
Okay. I can.
sorry, sir, what is your name anyway?
Yeah, I'll start with introductions. So my name is Chris Anderson. I'm a design principal at Smith Group Architects. We led the design of this project.
Cool, I keep notes, so,
Okay, yeah, it's great to meet you. Hi, Kevin.
thank you.
I can click forward and this will move forward, correct? No?
Let's see if it works.
On the side of it, you need to, there you go.
Oh, it's got like an invisible clicker. This might be hard for me. Okay. So again, you heard who I am. I'm excited here to share this project with all of you tonight. I thought it'd be best if we start off with a quick video so that you could hear from Jerry himself, his support for this project and how this project really is like a turning the page for a new chapter in his life. So why don't we run that video?
My name is Jerry Soba. I'm from Sheboygan, Michigan. I was broke, so I had to do something. I've always been ambitious. My favorite part of owning Captain Keno's is trying to help everybody in the city. It's a good feeling to see how happy people can be if you treat them well, you know. No, I would like to see it stay the way it is, but it's impossible. And of course, this is the hard part, selling, you know. They're really going out of their way to make sure all the neighborhood is taken care of, you know. They're doing the best they can, you know. I do believe the time is coming. I'm going to be 84 years old, and we have to face the facts of life. So anyways, I feel it's better to sell it, and the family will have the money instead of the problems. I don't want no responsibility when I leave, but I really wish them all the luck in the world. My name is Jerry.
Right. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a very touching video, and we really do have Jerry's full support for this project. So I'll start with that, and maybe go back to the slide deck. And my button's not working, so maybe you guys can forward it, unless it's great. And so next, I want to introduce Adam Robinson, who's the president and founder of RPG, in charge of developing this project.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight. We're excited to be here. This is a long time in the making for me. I'm just going to give a quick overview of myself and RPG. I've lived in Encinitas now for 21 years, 3 kids, all in the public school system here. I really care a lot about the community, and we currently own 10 projects for about 156,000 square feet in this market. So this has really been more of a passion project. We really want to better this community, and we've had a lot of community input on this, so I'm excited to have everyone show you. The one thing that I'll also answer real quickly is everything in this project is for lease. So the only reason we're doing the condo map is I like making new mistakes and not old ones. We built a mixed-use project in Solana Beach. It was hard to finance. So with us having the condo map on this project, we can get a lender for the apartment building, a different lender for the retail, a different lender for the office. We can still have one lender for everything, but just with this kind of weird climate we're in, it's nice to have options. But it's, like I said, it's a for lease only project. So I'll turn it back over to Chris.
Thanks, Adam. And I'm just going to say next because this beyond me. So I will start by saying that the expanded team of the companies that you can see on the screen here are all based locally. They all live and work in the San Diego region and are sort of intimately familiar with this exact site. Okay, next. And this slide, I think, really represents the team's sort of ability and willingness to sort of work with the community and the planning group here to sort of evolve the project in the direction that we think is best for the community. From the very onset, we knew this project was very important given its location. We knew it was a gateway project to Leucadia. And, you know, the ability to sort of take all the streetscape improvements on the 101 that are happening just north of Marchetta and kind of continue those down. It felt like it really filled in or started to fill in that really important gap. And so this seems like it ties in with the spine really nicely. I'll talk about the evolution of the design briefly on this as well. You know, over 3 years ago, our initial thoughts were that we wanted to propose an architecture that really sort of was a canopy that kind of covered all the different program elements in the project, such as, you know, what I'm trying to say is that the retail would look a lot like the residential, would look a lot like the office. And, you know, we heard pretty quickly that is not something that is sort of reflective of Encinitas. It's just too homogeneous of an approach. And then so we kind of went back to the drawing boards and came up with a new scheme for the site that maybe swung the pendulum too far in the other direction. In that we heard that, well, we like the exuberance, we like the broken up roof lines, it's less boxy. But we want something that kind of fits better in the context of the immediate surroundings. And so we again kind of went back and found sort of a language that we think is kind of just right, in that it's a little more sophisticated, but also sort of expresses the collective nature of Encinitas and its diversity and its excitement, and has a unique kind of design language, but also fits in as well. So maybe next. And so here's where the project sits today. It looks a lot like that last image that I showed you in the last slide. Some of the recent changes we made can be seen here are, one, the trellis structure that makes up the restaurant is now sort of a big canted plane, and that was really designed to kind of pay homage to the roof structure of the current Kino's restaurant. So it's sort of, you can recall that. It sort of stays with the site. And then we removed some of the metal paneling on the office and we replaced it by wood cladding, which you can see. And we had metal fins that were shading the glass, and now those are all wood as well. Next. The site as it sits today, it has the existing structures on it are the restaurant, small commercial building, and the Portofino Hotel. There's quite a bit of slope to the site. It goes down 14 feet from the Highway 101 all the way to Melrose. And the Portofino really kind of bridges that gap. The Portofino, as you probably know, is now defunct. It's become really sort of a safety issue for the community. So the goal is if this moves forward, we'd probably expedite the raising of that to make it sort of a safer environment as well. And along those same lines, and we kind of touched on this earlier about the streetscape. Currently there's no defined sidewalk along the perimeter on the Highway 101 side. There's no curb that protects pedestrians, and that really makes for very confusing circulation between cars and pedestrians. Our scheme will kind of clean that up, and we'll have sort of two dedicated, entries. One would be to the garage on the north end of the site, and the other would just be to the loading on the south. So you're really allowing for kind of uninterrupted pedestrian-friendly areas all along the property itself. One last thing I'm going to add is, the Melrose side, we're doing the same thing as well. We are implementing, that was a request from the community. They wanted a sidewalk. So currently in the design is a new sidewalk on Melrose. You can go next. This is obviously a terrific site. We believe that it's in total alignment with sort of the smart growth and and smart development sort of tenants for Encinitas. We're really looking at a project that's high density housing and very low rise. It's only 2 stories. It's super walkable, right? We're within a half mile of the coaster. We have access to retail. We have access to lots of sort of outdoor amenities. And, the fact that it's mixed use allows you to sort of live, work, and play in the same place. So it's kind of this, perfect nexus of everything coming together. So we really feel, again, that this is in perfect alignment with the city's goals. Next. And Esteban did a really good job of kind of walking you through the fundamental program. So again, it's an L-shaped site with the Shamrock trailer park kind of at the crux here. Everything is 2 stories with residential. Did I go past the time limit?
Keep going.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a time limit. I should have.
Sorry about that.
But I think you guys are familiar with it. You could have questions if you have any questions moving forward. So you can go to the next slide. And Esteban covered all this. Just some high-level stats. We're 80% coverage. We're allowed 90. We're 90% native plants, and I think 50 is the minimum. This is a breakdown: 35,000 square feet of office, 12 of retail, 3,500 restaurant. The mix of the units: 6 micro units, 14 studios, 18 one-bedroom, 7 two-bedrooms, making for a total of 45, and 4 very low income are dedicated. Current code does not require us to have any parking on the site. That is, of course, a relatively new adoption by the city. Prior to this point, there was a 228 stall requirement. We are currently at 244 stalls, which are all below grade, by the way. And we've added a couple stalls to the public parking along the streetscape as well. And we have 38 required stalls for the bicycles, and we're proposing 52. Next. The team is really committed to doing a quality project here. We've only looked at specifying sustainable materials that last. The main materials that make up this project are sort of ground face CMU for the back of house and the corridor spaces. But the main fronting facades will have sort of Oco Skin is the product. It's sort of a cement board product from Europe. Clay brick, low E glass, and plaster, around the trim of the office building itself. Pressure-treated lumber will be used, or pressure-treated wood will be used for cladding.
Chris, let's try and get to the end. I want to hear.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
We're almost there. Okay, next. We're very committed to sustainability. If you guys have questions about what we've done, I could sort of touch on that, but we can keep going. You saw this slide, so I think we can keep moving along. Here's just a view in the courtyard in between the resi and the office. Okay, and then of course the Melrose side, which you've seen. And then Kim is going to touch on the community outreach, some of the work that we've done, if we have time.
What do you think, Anna? We're a little past. How many speakers do we have?
About 6 or 7.
6 or 7? What can you do in 3 minutes? 2 minutes.
All right.
Far out.
This is pretty much the last one, so I'm going to hand it off.
Hi, Kimberly Miller, Miller Public Affairs. So in early last year, 2022, we formed a citizens advisory group, and we found folks from either word of mouth, looking at social media and their comments. We met 7 times in Encinitas at various locations, so we could really discuss all aspects of the project. And I think what you see from that effort is what is before you today. It's a project that has evolved. We really spent some time with folks to find out what they liked, what they didn't like, or what, more importantly, what they'd like to see. We conducted a peer review by a local architect who was not associated with our team. And then we conducted numerous one-on-one meetings, again, to garner that feedback. What we said earlier is what you have before you today is the project based on that very robust engagement. Outside of that, and at one of our meetings, our citizen advisory group members really wanted to talk about the community benefits of what the community would get outside of this project, just from whether they live, work, or play. And what we have from that effort and that discussion was we have entrepreneurial incubator space, which is so important for small business. I'm a woman-owned small business, and to have someone who's going to offer space, especially post-COVID and office, I mean, that's going to be tremendous for you. And I love that that's going to be a foundational component of our project. We have obviously 6 new public parking spaces. We have public art space. That was really something we heard time and time again in many of our meetings with community members here. We have, we're going to kind of really organize our giving. And so the ownership team is going to commit to, on an annual basis, supporting 3 local not-for-profits. We heard that loud and clear from our Citizens Advisory Group. And we also heard about supporting the local schools, whether that is providing them space for the art program to do something on an annual school basis, or supporting something at a local school. So we are going to be forming a charitable fund dedicated to supporting the local schools, local public schools, and that will be supported by the ownership group on an annual basis for the community. So just again, thank you. I don't get a lot of latitude where folks tell me to come in and go speak to folks that don't like their project. And this was really remarkable. And I'm just really proud of the work that was done, because your citizens, your neighbors were very vocal. And I was really pleased that we were even down to like the native plants, like really like down to certain plants are now incorporated into this project because of this effort. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have more?
Great. There's just one last slide I think we can go through. This just talks briefly about all the modifications that we made working with the community and the planning group. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Can you go back one on the slide? Yeah, there we go.
Okay. This just lists some of the more major sort of modifications that we've made throughout the evolution of the project. I'm happy to talk in more detail about them if you have questions.
Yeah, we'll probably keep public comment opens, because I suspect we're all going to have questions up here. I'd love to hear from the public on this one. I'm going to open public comment, and we have 3 minutes on the clock. Dina,
All right.
who are we calling first?
First up is Rochelle Collier.
My name is Rochelle Collier. I live on Hillcrest Drive in Leucadia. So, we always come up here with a fight, and there's no fight anymore because of the state law. But I do have to say, because I saw the first iteration and now the one tonight, and the improvements, the wood, and it's just so much better than the way it was. And we did have like a kind of an ugly part of, well, there's a lot of ugly parts of Highway 101, but that south end was really kind of hideous. So I'm glad we're going to get some trees and landscaping, and I'm glad we're going to get natives, because we keep asking for that, and somehow the city's not doing it. So my last favor is to the Planning Commission. I'm good at it looks good, and I like native landscaping, and you've got to find any little things that need to be changed, and that's your job. You do it really well. So anyway, I want to thank this group for changing. They listened to what we said, which is rather shocking. And, well, it's just going to be nice to have sidewalks and trees on the south end of Leucadia. And everybody needs to remember this. Jerry sold the property These people bought it, and this is what happens. It's not because the city or the state or the somebody did it. Jerry sold the property, and they're building it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle.
Next, we have Penny Hunt.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Penny Hunt, and I've also been an Encinitas resident for 21 years. The house I've lived in for those 21 years is very near the property site being discussed tonight. One benefit of living where I live is the close proximity to Keno's. Let's just say I've been there a few times. I believe we're all losing something very special with the loss of Keno's, but I also understand Jerry's decision to sell. Because of my proximity, I've attended most of the public meetings regarding the planning of the captain and was part of RPG's Citizen Advisory Group for a short amount of time as well. Despite losing an establishment I frequented, I do feel heard by RPG when voicing my concerns. For example, just this week, I asked if it was possible for the broken windows at the Portofino to be boarded, and RPG committed to having them boarded this week. Hopefully, that will make Portofino less of the eyesore that it has currently become. And while I don't want to lose Keno's, inevitably Encinitas changes, as we've all seen. I appreciate how responsive RPG has been to me and look forward to being good neighbors before, during, and after the construction. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Peter Curry.
Good evening, esteemed planning commissioners and very important staff. It's good to see you. My name is Peter Curry. My partners and I, Mark Adam, who's right here, John Keys, who's in Cabo right now, getting hammered, I think, by the hurricane. We own the property right next door to the north of this one, where Caden Cyclery is and Motor Deli are. We're in support of this project. We've owned the property since 2000, and there have been some colorful and crazy things that have happened next door, and so it would be exciting to see this all improved. I'm also a founding board member of the Leucadia 101 Main Street Association since 2003. So any of you who have been in the city for 30 plus years, I don't want to age anybody, but when Rochelle Collier comes up and speaks in support of a project, that means a lot. So I'm not going to speak to the architectural design because there are many people more qualified than me addressing that topic. I will speak to the attention and respect that the applicant has paid towards immediate neighborhood stakeholders, as well as all of the feedback sought from us at the Leucadia 101 Main Street Association. He reached out for feedback multiple times regarding the design and architectural modifications. I'd also like to say that this applicant has a pride of ownership, as you can see in this very well presented presentation. It's beyond that. When you look at the projects that he owns, so Pacific Station, when he bought that, he did some great modifications, cleaned it up, got quality tenants. He attracts quality tenants. When he bought the Westlake Professional Center, it was an old dilapidated center, high vacancy, it needed a ton of work. He put the money into that and made it super clean, and it's a vibrant commercial center. Same thing for the Westlake Center where the boxing club was. I mean, that thing is cool. So, we're not looking forward to the noise and dust and dirt and all of the disruption that the construction process will cause in the neighborhood. I know our tenants are not looking forward to it, but we firmly believe that the end result will be a huge improvement for our immediate neighborhood and a huge benefit to the Encinitas community at large. With the quality retail and restaurant space being offered in this project, we look forward to the southern section of Leucadia being activated, finally, and bringing the vibrancy and synergy similar to what exists further north in Leucadia along the Solterra, Duckfoot, Regal, Seagull, Papa, Gaio corridor. that's infectious when that happens, and I think it's just great. This project will not only benefit the neighborhood, but serve the entire Encinitas community. And then lastly, I'm excited for Jerry at Captain Keno's. He's served the community in so many different capacities, including being an avid supporter of L101. So he deserves to move on in his next chapter in style. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Kelly Hicks with a time donation from Brenda Hicks. Brenda, are you in the audience?
Yeah, you can hand it out.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Okay, my name is Kelly Hicks. I live about 200 feet away from this project. One of the packets there, the one that has the aerial image on it, basically was concerning whether there's going to be provision of parking, or not parking, sidewalks along Melrose. Having gone through your staff report and everything, they keep mentioning all the street improvements they're going to do on the 101 side. They're putting in sidewalks, landscaping. So there's a question whether they're actually even going to do a sidewalk on the Melrose side. And in that packet, the part that's actually got tabs on it shows they have a responsibility to provide what you call safe pedestrian circulation. So now they're saying they're going to do that. The question is, how's that going to be accomplished? On Melrose Street, from El Portal to Sylvia Street, it's a 40-foot right-of-way, 30-foot paved, 5-foot sidewalks on each side, other than right behind this project. And not only that, you have from El Portal down to Swami's, which is like about 1.4 miles, the whole street has got pavement, curbs, gutters, sidewalks on both sides. And then, of course, downtown, you also have parkways. That same thing applies to La Vida Street and La Mesa Street. You got 30-foot pavement, 5 feet curbs, gutters, and sidewalks on each side. So what's missing here is behind this project on both sides, it stops. The sidewalk stops about, I'd say maybe 160 feet from Sylvia. And the question is why? And in the second packet there, it shows some pictures of what's existing there. Basically they have a sidewalk and all of a sudden there's nothing. So what happens is, and I've lived there for 43 years, and I've seen all kinds of things happening there. There'll be people walking in the middle of the street with baby strollers, with surfboards, whatever, because there's no place for you to go. You have to walk in the middle of the street. It's not safe. So we've been waiting for the opportunity to have, when the development happened, to have a sidewalk put in. So doing some measurements yesterday, right now there's like 24 feet of pavement between the gutters, curbs, gutters, and sidewalks on the west side onto the other side. So there's missing about 6 feet of pavement. So why is that? Well, if you look at the picture being shown there, you have an embankment that's encroaching into the right-of-way. It's behind this particular project, and it continues all the way down behind Shamrock. Yeah, it's great you can put that up. So what's happening is that if they do their sidewalk that they're saying they're going to put in, it's not shown in the picture that I had here, where they had the pictorial on the front. On 101, it shows someone walking along the sidewalk, and the one on Melrose shows nothing, no sidewalk at all. But if they do the sidewalk, what's going to happen? You walk along this and you run into an embankment. You can't go any further. So you're back out in the street. So I guess what we're asking is that to make this a viable sidewalk, this embankment needs to be removed. They're taking out 45,000 cubic yards of dirt. That's around 4,500 trucks. That part, if there's like about a 5-foot embankment, it maybe extends maybe 200 feet. This property and what's behind the Shamrock, taking that out, if they were to take that out, assuming it's around 93 cubic yards. That's a minuscule part of what they're going to be doing. Not even, I believe, not even 1/10% or something like that. So they're having the trucks there, they're having the tractors, that they can do this. They can take and make it where it's a viable sidewalk to get people out of the street. It's a little bit more difficult on this side because you have the power poles. And we talk about measurements, there's not time to do it now. I know in front of my house, there's a power pole on the sidewalk too, and there's only 33 inches between the inside of the power pole and my fence. That's not really sufficient for, I can't think of the name of the word right now, for handicap type access. So one of the
ADA.
questions,
ADA.
Yeah. Wheelchairs is what I was trying to think of.
Yep.
Well, on the other side of the street, there's not that problem. And the question is, there's like 4 parcels there that don't have this curb gutters and sidewalk. Why is that? Why has it been that way for decades? And there's been 2 houses built. One's being built right now, and typically, when you do development, you're responsible for providing, the public, that type of public improvements. So I think what I'm trying to get across is that he wants to make safe circulation, safe pedestrian circulation. Would he be willing to step forward and make this where it's really simple and makes sense? Just having a sidewalk behind his property to a dead end inside of it is not going to work. And for him to go ahead and do this, they're talking about how concerned they are about the community. This would be a way of showing that. That, you know what? We'll put a sidewalk. We'll remove this. We'll do the sidewalk where it is a safe thing. They have a pedestrian access on the back of their property. What are people going to do? They're going to come out. They're going to walk to the beach. How are they going to do it? In the middle of the street. I know you showed the picture up there of the lady doing it. I see that all the time. So I think it's a reasonable request to ask them to do something that shows, we really are part of the community. We worry about your safety. It's not just about 101. I helped develop the North 101 Corridor Specific Plan, blah, blah, blah. So I know what the impact's going to be. This would be a major improvement. He could show his good faith to the community. As far as the parking, I hope that this is going to be sufficient parking. People have doubts. what happens how are they going to regulate that? Downtown at Pacific Station is 6.
It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. If it's any consolation, I've got almost the exact same pictures taken earlier today. And
Right.
I'm well aware of that dirt berm, and I have questions about that we'll be discussing a little bit further
Hopefully we
on.
can get this resolved. It'd be a good thing to show that he has respect with the community and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Benjamin Gershman.
Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin Gershman, and I'm the property owner of 124 and 132 Melrose, across from the proposed development, right where the road bottlenecks. And I wanted to thank you guys for hearing me out. I want to say I'm in support of this project. It's come a long way. I want to thank Adam and his team for working on it for so long and listening to the community and aligning the changes with that. So, it's been a long time coming where it all came together. To Kelly's points about the sidewalk, that's definitely a concern of mine. Knowing how the road meets there, it puts my tenants at risk now, and the sidewalk ends right in front of my property. The road bottlenecks from at one end of the property from 35 feet across the street down to 29. So it's not a 40-foot thing. On page 26 of the thing, it says it's going to be 40 foot, but if they keep the property lines as they are, it can't be. So I think it's important just to shine light on that. However, it's a hard site to work with, so I don't want to just focus on that. I really wanted to just come up and ask for, to do a few requests, because I'm figuring this thing's getting green lighted one way or another, and I am cool with that. I think it's going to really help the community, and it's going to make it a safer, better place. So one is for the construction vehicles and personnel. The resident parking, there's a lot of people who use that parking on the west side of the street. It's probably a tall order to ask for temporary parking permits for residents for that side of the street, just to make sure they can still access their homes from a reasonable distance and not be so impacted by the construction. And given Melrose's substandard width, during construction, I'm requesting to have all the construction traffic, vehicles, materials for the site delivered and arrive on the Coast Highway rather than Melrose, and make that a specific thing for this. That's in line with the city code not allowing access to the property via Melrose, so I don't see why that would be an issue. The proposed loading zone that is in the project does conflict with that to a degree, but I get it's a loading zone. Just want to highlight that that's a gray area the way I see it, just as a citizen and a neighbor. And then I'm really psyched about the sidewalks. I do think that they're necessary. The parking is also a concern. I think there's I don't remember the details of the numbers of what it's actually costing people, but it would be great if that parking was free, because I know it's going to deter people if it costs anything. And with such a massive thing, it would be really nice if at least those 200 some spaces were like easy to use. But that's not my call, that's your call. Last thing, thanks for hearing all of this, is due to the slope downwards towards the neighborhood, towards my property, towards the community, I'd like to increase, or to ask if you guys could increase the fence height for this to prevent dust and debris and all that from affecting the community or the surrounding community during the construction. That's it. Thank you guys for your time. Adam, really thank you. You've done a great job with this. It's been a long time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our final speaker is Ilana Richmond.
Hello. I live at 110 Melrose, and just wanted to reiterate some of the last comments made to show my support. Wanted to know, I've been to several of the meetings, and I wanted to know where we land in terms of that there was not going to be any loading or unloading on Melrose, that everything, all the delivery trucks and everything for the restaurant and the bars and retail will be, in fact, on Coast Highway, and also during construction that there we would not have, it's very, very difficult to park on that street. People have to pull over. People are walking dogs, children. I would like to request that we do have a taller fencing during the construction, as well as like to understand that there's not going to be additional parking and access from Melrose to the property. From the last that I had heard, most of it was going to be from PCH. So my concern is about the construction trucks and the parking of those micro studio and studios that the city only requires, or the county requires, 0.5 parking. It's already difficult, and it's already very dangerous on that street. So I would just like to have some clarification on where we landed in terms of the activity on Melrose during the construction period, and then once the project's finished. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oop, is that it?
Just for the record, we did have one speaker slip in support, but did not wish to speak.
Thank you very much. I'm going to actually leave public comment open, because I get a feeling we're going to be asking questions of the applicant. So let's jump right into, wait, no, I'm missing a point here. I keep switching, I know. I got it, thank you very much. I keep switching my glasses, so I'm either far away or close. And the applicant, would you like to respond to anything that's been presented by the speakers? You don't have to.
I would just like to address the question about what's happening on Melrose relative to loading. Oh, there you are. So we don't have any loading for the retail at all, or the office happening on Melrose. We do have a designated spot that was required by Postal Service. They would not allow us to not have a spot for them to park. That is also going to, it'll be signed, but it's also going to serve as a loading space for tenants coming and going into the units, just so they wouldn't clog up the traffic. Or, the congestion on the street I know is really bad there, so I think having that spot made a lot of sense. Oh, sure. Yeah, Esteban, if you don't mind.
Can you put the rendering up so we can see that, please?
Okay, there, yeah, you can see it on the plan. There it is on the left. There's a dedicated loading zone. And the rendering does show that as well.
Esteban, can you zoom in on that portion? Because this was a hard one to wrap my head around. I spent a lot of time looking at this. What exactly is that? So that's actually off of the street onto your property. And what is it going to look like? I couldn't picture that worth a darn.
We actually are proposing grasscrete, which is a concrete paver that allows some vegetation to come through in the bottom. The curb that's just to the west of it is a rolled curb, so it allows vehicles to kind of enter and park on that spot. And behind that is I think it's a 4'6" height BMP, which is, a planter essentially. So you'll get lots of screening to the residents as well. It's really just sort of a carve out in the vegetation to provide that spot.
And so there will be 5-foot sidewalks. Do I understand that right?
Yes, yeah.
And they'll be like just on the other side of your property line or in our property? So I know where the right-of-way is. I can tell that from the power poles.
So you can see that sidewalk there, that ends at the edge of our property line, but it's continuous throughout, that, to the west directly of our property. So was your question what happens where it ends, which is?
Yeah, that's everyone. I mean, we already have, just for the public's notice, people aren't required to make sidewalks all the way up and down. They're just supposed to do it in front of their home now. We've been back and forth on this one from the city's end. Personally, I think we should just take responsibility for it. We have all these weird little gaps, especially on 101. But Melrose, I live on Orpheus, another street with no sidewalks. But I think this is, it will stop. How are you? I'm not sure how you're going to handle that.
There, obviously, I don't know what the exact transition is going to look like. Maybe you could speak to that, Tyler. Okay, so this is Tyler with PLSA, our civil engineer. So it sounds like it just kind of comes to a stop. I don't know if there's a way to detail that to make it more gradual
really.
or not.
I've seen it before. I do have a question on the, what is that? That's the southern end. There's like a little walkway coming out.
Yes, the steps.
Is that steps?
Yeah, that steps coming up to the street.
Okay. So
it's
and
actually,
there's the people further up by the main entrance. That's ADA accessible. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Cool. That's
it's a tricky site.
Yeah. Any questions while we got them up here?
Yes, so just about the stairs, you said that those are stairs that are going up to the sidewalk? So at that point, the building is lower than the sidewalk?
Correct.
I do have another, if now's an okay time, I do have another question. Can we see the picture of the interior courtyard for a little bit longer than we got a chance to see it?
Sure.
I know you were going through it pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah, be happy to share more.
No. Okay, so I had a question about the balconies, because you indicated that, at the request of residents on Melrose, that you took out the balconies for those apartments that faced Melrose.
Yeah.
So do all of the residential units have some sort of balcony?
There's no balconies that are facing Melrose. The top units that you can see on the left, they do not have balconies. There's sort of a little dedicated outdoor space, which you can see the railing that is sort of a little pocket area at the lower level. So that, I guess you can consider a balcony.
Okay, and that's the building that is along Melrose. What about the residential units that are on 101?
Yeah, those do have balconies.
Okay, so those are balconies to the okay.
So I think the only ones that don't have balconies are the micro units. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. Some are so small we couldn't fit one in.
The micro units in this building we're looking at now, or in the Melrose building?
No, I think it's on the Melrose building
Melrose
facing
side,
the inner
yeah.
courtyard.
Okay, thank you. And I had a question about the 4 very low-income units. Where are those dispersed throughout the project?
We sort of intentionally, disperse them sort of throughout to give kind of, equal experiences to where they occur. So some are on the one is on the 101, and then I think 2 are on the 101 side and 2 are on the Melrose side.
And what types of units are those?
It's a mix as well. So you have a studio, 1 bedroom, and 2 bedroom. I think a micro studio, 1 bedroom, and 2 bedroom.
Oh, so like one of each kind?
Yeah.
Okay. And those particular units, the very low-income units, do they have the same amenities as the non-low-income units?
They do.
Okay, thank you.
There you can see them highlighted in blue.
Well, I got you up here. I've got a question on the plant palette. I know we've got these strawberry trees, strawberry marinas. If you've ever had to walk a kid to school off of Orpheus Park, there's 2 of them that hang over the sidewalk. They're a nightmare, especially over a sidewalk. They drop those little beautiful red berries, which then get stepped on and turn into a goo that gets between your shoes. And you've got them all over the sidewalk in front of it on 101. So we have no say in that matter, but as a personal recommendation, I'd say swap them out for something less messy. It's a good opportunity, maybe fit a Monterey cypress or coast live oak in there, but they're pretty, but you'll end up hating them, and your janitor will probably hate them even worse.
I have just the guy to respond to that. This is Brad, our landscape architect.
Commissioners, thank you. Brad Lenahan with Ground Level Landscape Architects. Yeah, one of the challenges we have along the road is we have a water line that runs under the street there. So the trees, if you look at them in the renderings, they're actually set into pots. So they're above grade because we can't put the trees below grade. So it kind of limits the species that we could put in there. So we're trying to find a tree, that will perform well in that kind of a situation. So understood about the strawberry trees. We can always look at a different species, but
it's up to you guys.
I would love to put an oak in there if I thought an oak would do well in a pot,
but just that particular tree, I saw that over the sidewalks and I cringed because we want people walking there, and if you look at the sidewalks near where they cross another sidewalk, every time there's a curb, people scrape that stuff off, and the sidewalks are stained. They're pretty, but not over a sidewalk. That's just my personal take.
I appreciate that. We'll look at it.
Bob, you got something?
I had a few. This specifically goes to the CPP report, so I'm not sure who on your team can refer to the community participation plan, but on page 2, item number 5.
This is the
community participation.
Community outreach?
Yes, community outreach plan.
You could try, maybe, Kim, you might be part of this.
They can bring it up. It's one of the documents that was provided. Follow along. There was some concern on item number 5, which was on page 2. Commentator number 5. They live on Vulcan, I think was the comment. We live on Vulcan. I'm concerned about the lights on the 101 side. We don't want to look down and see the spotlights at night. What's the signage going to be like? How strong? When will they turn off automatically? So I just want to know what your response is. It just says it's important. We'd like to hear your concerns. What is your response to the lighting question that was in the CPP?
Our Smith Group, we have a lighting design group who worked hard on this design, and I'm going to speak to it as best I can. All of the lights are in accordance so that we could sort of minimize light pollution, and so they'll be timed certain hours of the day they will have to turn off. We do have some light, which is usually indirect, which means that you'll never see the light source itself. We're going to sort of uplight on the building.
I can take this one too.
Oh.
So it was something that we took a look at. We had, if you look at, can we pull up where we have the 3 renderings? we were talking to a lot, including Chris, who's now left, because she lives right across the street as well. So when you get to the 3, you'll see we had what I think was really cool, but it was a metal-ish kind of backlit light. And that was specifically what the resident was talking about. So we actually removed it.
Okay.
And so we put a much less intrusive, just captain light that's going to have a little bit of backlight. So we got rid of what would have been their issue.
And is going to staff, hang on. You'll see that in their application in terms of the lighting plan, because I don't see the lighting plan here other than just the question. So to the applicant's question, that'll come up during building plan check or building plan review?
Correct. So the municipal code does have performance standards for lighting, and they are part of the plans in this application as well.
But we don't have a visual of that as
Can
part
you
of the
go back to
application.
the 3, where there was the 3 renderings at the top of kind of the progression of the project?
Oh, yes.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so it's kind of hard to see.
Yep.
But on the 3rd picture,
Yep.
there's this greenish area that's running all the way down. If you can see that on the
Yeah.
office building.
Yes.
And that was the concern. And so if you now go to the next page, please. We removed that completely, and we just put the capped in on the wood. And so, that issue should now be completely resolved.
So you've redesigned it a couple different times, and clearly there's a lot of lighting here with the wood on the right-hand side of the office component. It's a lot of windows, a lot of light that could come out from that. Have the neighbors seen this plan so the neighbors know what they're going to be seeing from Vulcan?
They have, and we have studies where we show what it looks like at night and everything else. But
Okay.
the nice thing about these types of uses, the office use usually is shutting down and lights are going off 5, 6, 7 o'clock, probably usually at the latest.
Right.
And so that will be completely dark with a little bit of uplight on landscaping and other things.
Okay, so I was just concerned that they had asked that question.
No, for sure.
Might as well, number 6 was the question on the commentator on the CPP, how many parking spots for the residences? I think at this point, it was 244. I think there's some calculations both in the staff report and yours that shows 245. I'm not sure.
We're over parking the
Yeah, yeah.
project. Yeah, I'll let Chris explain the parking portion.
Yeah, I just was curious of the parking stalls, how many for the residents? I know you're overparked. You don't have to do it to 0.5, and there's a nice chart in there. But how many are assigned to the neighbors' concerns, of how many are assigned to the residents, and how many are assigned for the commercial? And is there some sort of symbiotic relationship between the evening when there's no commercial, and is that how you're relying upon it? I mean, you don't have to do any, I think, is the current code.
Yeah, I do have a breakout. I had a little cheat sheet with like these detailed numbers. Do you have yours, Adam?
It's in the
Staff report,
staff
okay.
report, can bring it up.
To answer your question relative to sort of sharing spaces, we did anticipate a kind of a float factor on the weekends especially, so that when people aren't coming into work in the offices, that parking would be available to the public. Here, it looks like I have everything. So the dedicated restaurant USPS, so total parking, give me 1 second here. General office, we have 115. Retail, we have 71. Restaurant, 37. Nadia, I don't see residential parking.
I think there were 50 dedicated to residents, from what I recall of the information I read.
And that section was a nightmare to read.
244
on the
minus
plans.
100, it is exactly 50. 244 minus 194, yes, 50. Thanks.
So 50 for the residents.
50 dedicated just to the residents.
Just for the residents, and then, okay, so I was just curious on what that was. All right, going back to the CPP, sorry about that. Get back up again, all right. So I think number 12 on page 4, the question from the commentator was, I didn't see this on the drawings from the street. So if I'm coming northbound on the 101, how do I turn left? Is there a turn lane on the 101 to turn left into the project?
Yes, we are integrating a dedicated left turn lane, so you can turn directly into the garage.
Okay, so you're not stuck waiting on 101?
So this wasn't a requirement, and Streetscape actually removed the left turn lane into the project. And so we worked with, I think, Caltrans and Public Right of Way and everything else. So it wasn't a requirement, but we decided to spend the money and put a left turn lane into the project, knowing that if we didn't do that, people were going to circle Melrose and the community and everything else. So that's something that came out of the meetings we had with the community, and we agreed that it was a smart thing to do. So we will be adding that dedicated left turn lane going north into the project. And then obviously going south, it's very easy to pull into the parking garage.
So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So question then to staff, is that, or for us, is that part of the resolution, as part of the permit to approve? Are we going to insert that into the resolution that that is a requirement? Or do we have to, or if he's offering to do that, is that a condition of approval?
Yeah, because I don't think I saw a striping plan, really.
Right. Well, clearly it's a business decision to come north. He's offering to do it.
Yeah.
Do we have the authority to make it a requirement?
It's a tricky one. I mean,
know.
early on in Streetscape, the first plan had dividers, not letting anyone turn there. And it was actually in consideration of Jerry Sova of Captain Keno's that was going to allow the left turn pretty much where this complex is now.
Okay, so maybe this is deliberation versus question. So thank you very much. He explained to me that that's how he's turned in. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, if you've worked on this, we're just not really sure how it's going to integrate with what's there.
Right.
And what's been approved by the city and what's not.
Good evening. Justin Rosses with LOS Engineering. I'm the traffic engineer for the project. So yes, the applicant, we worked with the city to incorporate a two-way left turn lane, which effectively is what you see in streets, wider streets, where you have a center area for northbound travel. The vehicles can turn into this center two-way left turn lane, and there's sufficient queuing in there to store vehicles that need to turn left into this site. The applicant and civil engineer basically, or I believe they have the image up there, within the package being provided, incorporated the striping and the required dimensioning to incorporate that with the project.
Thank you.
So now, before you head back, I just want to clarify, so anyone leaving this parking garage is not going to be able to go north. They're going to have to go south, or?
We analyzed the driveway to work as a full access driveway. So leaving the site, you can turn left, and the operations, or what we call level of service, is at acceptable levels. So a egress vehicle can choose to turn left or right out of the driveway.
Oh,
Thank you.
I was only thinking, but yes, you have to turn left. I appreciate that. Thank you for clarifying. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that it's not a condition of approval right now.
Right.
But if they're willing to have it as a condition of approval, then you may add it to have
And it would
the
be in the
left turn lane.
resolution then
Would
that we would
be added
approve.
to the resolution that gets signed.
All right, so then that becomes a question for the commissioners as a,
I think
Is that how it
if
works?
we're ready to move on to deliberation, then
Okay.
we should close public comment.
wait, I got more.
Hold on, Susan's got something.
One question for the applicant.
Let's
On
get
the
that.
slide that showed the sustainability, you showed that you improved the drainage, the,
Yeah, stormwater
it seems to me
retention
from
collection.
looking at, and thank you, by the way, for providing so many photos of the existing conditions, which really show us a lot, the hardscape that's already there. Looks like it covers every inch just about. Am I wrong?
Hardscape is what's currently there, you said? Yeah, it's almost all asphalt. I mean, minus the hotel site has a little more
So I think,
building on it.
although the project does cover pretty much the whole site, it did before also have an impervious, and now you have the bioswales. Is that how you've improved it?
Yes, well, if you imagine all the rainfall that's hitting the mostly asphalt currently on these combined sites, that is going directly into the storm drain system. Now we are required to have 100% of the water retained on site and is being filtered through essentially like rain garden bioswales. We call them BMPs. So they're sort of large-scale planters that kind of naturally filter out all the stormwater.
Were there any existing trees?
Yes, there were, and I forget how many there were. We have replaced them plus. Brad, do you have the number?
Yeah, there's about a dozen existing palm trees on the site, different varieties of palms.
Yeah, different varieties of palms. I'm not sure if you can hear that.
Okay, thanks.
I do have a couple, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I have just one question about the commercial parking. Just from my experience with other sites with commercial and residential parking, with where the Whole Foods was. Do you anticipate the commercial parking being free parking?
I can't answer that question
Okay.
right now, to be honest.
Justin Rosses again, LOS Engineering. So the commercial office parking is going to be assigned during the week, Monday through Friday. On weekends, when you typically do not have office use, then it's going to be open, essentially. And similarly, during the weekday and weekend, your retail restaurant is going to be open. So as part of the analysis we looked at shared parking, which when you have multiple uses on the same area, you have some, for example, restaurant will peak at lunchtime, but it will be underutilized when other uses would need more parking. So it balances out, and we end up with, I think it was, 11 space surplus during a weekday, and well over 117 on a weekend surplus. So we believe we are parked well and above.
Thank you.
I do have one more question on the density bonus report. I'm not sure who's to talk with that. Can you show me on the site plan that's included in the density bonus report where the waivers you are seeking due to the density bonus law?
Esteban, I think you're probably best suited to answer that.
Yes. So there are 3 waivers. The first waiver was requesting a waiver of the 20-foot minimum setback for equipment and utilities along Melrose Avenue. So currently there is a transformer at the northwest corner of the property on Melrose, and the waiver requests to keep the transformer there because the 20-foot setback requirement would mean that they would have to remove at least 1 unit from the development. And then the second waiver is for the length of the loading spaces. Code requires 35 feet minimum in length. The waiver requests a 30-foot long space for each of the 3 loading spaces.
And where, just show us on the site plan where those loading spaces are?
So unfortunately, behind the letters here, there's 2 tandem loading spaces for the commercial component of the building. And along Melrose Place, there is a loading space that was required by the USPS. The third waiver is the code requires a 6-foot high masonry wall along Melrose Avenue, 10 feet in from the property line. And since the development proposes housing facing Melrose, then that's being waived to allow that transition into the street.
So no wall?
Correct. There's a 4-foot wall that is kind of like a planter that allows for landscaping to buffer the street to the residences.
Thank you. That was it.
We good? If everyone's done, I'm going to close public comment and move on to deliberations. Public comment is closed. I don't know who wants to start. I'll start if no one's really well geared up to go.
I don't mind starting.
Go for it, Susan.
Okay. Well, the project overall, for me, is a net positive. I do see some negatives. With any development, it's impossible, to not see some of the negatives. But eliminating 4 driveways, very good. Much better for safety, better for our appearance of that street. Overall, looking at a half mile from the train center is going to be very good in terms of people being able to walk or bike there. And so less parking doesn't concern me. In fact, I think you could have fewer parking spots. Mixed use is one of my favorite kinds of development. I'm glad it's not an R30 site. I think that it speaks very well for you that it is mixed use and that you're going with condo. I'm not a fan of 100% leased. Of course, you know that probably from prior deliberations, I prefer to build generational wealth through ownership. So that's one of the bad points, in my opinion. 26 feet of grading exceeds 8-foot minimum, or maximum, I mean. In this case, the location fairly close to the beach with the Coastal Commission weighing in. However, and the tandem loading docks is another little negative for me. The masonry wall, I hope you're going to landscape over that with some nice greenery. The 20-foot setback going to 0 is probably the biggest waiver negative that I see out of the 3 asked for or requested. I think the nod to the captain with the slope kind of does give it a little different look than a lot of development that we see. I think that it's refreshing that the comments on this project were all positive. My goodness, most projects, and I weigh those pretty heavily. I mean, our job, we're not the final word. We're just recommending. And so public comment is very critical to me, very important to me. And I'm glad to hear that people were positive in their reflections on the project. So I think adding the sidewalks and eliminating the driveways and giving some tie-in with the streetscape are all positives in terms of the aesthetics. The buildings themselves, I like smaller units. I think that's a real big plus. I think a starter, if you're going to have leased, if it's not going to be purchased, at least smaller is a good way to go. So those are kind of my initial thoughts, and I may have missed something, but I think I got most of it in there.
You can get another chance if you forgot something. I remember I've talked to a few people about the emotions you go through when you see a site like this, and first thing I felt was outrage. It was like, it's Keno's, for crying out loud. But, I had this conversation with Jerry going back probably over 10 years ago, and he was like, I'm going to sell. One day I'm going to sell. And he kind of warned us we should be ready. And, it's a big hunk of change sitting on that piece of lot. And Jerry's, he came here as a young guy and built this thing. And the property has a lot of history. And I know he probably could have had it marked as historic back in the day, but he chose not to. Fred Caldwell used to always tell the story about John Wayne broke up a fight outside when it was still the Shamrock, and two guys fighting outside, and he kind of picked them both up by the scruff, and apparently he's humongous. He's 6'4", and he was like, "What's going on, partners?" and dragged them inside and bought rounds for the bar and just, you know, it's a little slice of Keno's. I mean, this is part of our history here. But the 101 is evolving and changing. We're going to end up with another retail commercial anchor slash residential anchor at the north end, and now Leucadia's got one at the south end, or will have. It's always been kind of a scary place. I mean, I got involved with local government back in 2005 when I got a little store on the 101, and we didn't have sidewalks. We had sidewalks, but you could walk a couple hundred yards and have just dirt, muddy dirt paths, and that was the 101. And we fought for, it took us a couple of years, but we got our temporary sidewalks in, and they've been there ever since. And then we got certain portions done up with some of the streetscape project has gone through. We've been pushing for this for 20 plus years. So it's got to happen. It's good that it's happening, and it's sad. I mean, it's bittersweet, and I think you know, you all feel the same way. But we're almost at the point where you can walk on a sidewalk all the way down to Encinitas Boulevard. Not quite, but it's part of the way there, and I'm excited by this project. And I love the micro units. Micro units rock. I'm with Susan on this one. I suspect that I'm trying to picture what an affordable micro unit would rent for, but you know, even the micro units, it's going to be targeting a certain type of Leucadian slash Encinitan. People, a lot of young guys move here. It's kind of an aspirational place to live. I had a note, I'm picturing who's living up in those micro units. Going to be a lot of wannabe surfers or surfers. I didn't see anything about a surfboard wash-off booth. A lot of people are just going to take their boards and just trot up to Stone Steps or Moonlight, and they're going to come back with their sandy boards and plan for that. I really love losing all those driveway aprons. I mean, we gained 3 spots on the street that way, and I thank you for that. I mentioned my love of the strawberry trees. Won't go into detail there. Now, I know one of our public speakers talked, a couple of them spoke about Melrose, and Melrose is always on my mind. I spend a lot of time cruising up and down that street. My car's minuscule. I got a little Miata, but I still have to pull over up onto the dirt to let people go by, depending on the size of their vehicle. The North 101 specific plan calls out Melrose several times. We've got a lot of restrictions there. So I'm hoping that there will be no, and if you have to have signs, I don't want any construction traffic on Melrose. I think that's all going to take place off of 101. And I don't know, is that conditioned that way? Esteban, do we have any conditions on construction access?
Not on construction access. I believe there's probably some.
Just like
building
Fox Point
division.
has no, and there's been a couple of big projects where we can limit, we don't want people going down the wrong streets. And truck drivers are going to come and they're like, oh, maybe this is it.
So there is a condition, as I recall, that refers to a requirement that prior to a grading permit being issued, that they have to submit a plan relating to access. And so within that plan, once it's submitted, then the city would add whatever conditions would be appropriate relating to deliveries and fencing and things along those lines.
Okay. I'm just trying to decide whether we request that as a condition tonight or whether we wait and hope it's done later.
Is that a recommendation versus part of the resolution?
Well,
We've made recommendations to city council before. I don't know if that's.
we're a quasi judicial body. We're going to make a ruling here.
Right,
And
okay.
maybe it'll be appealed to council, but maybe not.
All right.
If I may, there is a non-specific condition, and that's condition GRD 10 on page 21 of the resolution. The commission can add language to that condition if you deem it necessary.
There you go.
Yeah, because I think we should definitely do that. And where was it? You said 21?
Correct. Page 21 of the draft resolution.
Okay, these are all stock. Would we add a GRD 14, or is that already spoken for in our code? Anna, you have
Well, I just want to see for staff, with taking recommendations of your concerns regarding construction, and then them looking at it at the time construction is with those considerations. My only concern, unless the staff says otherwise, would be if there's any safety concerns with 100% on the 101, and that could be just nothing. I just don't know if there's any unforeseen things where we're restricting something and then causing any safety concerns in the future.
Right. I'm still, I don't want to see any trucks pulling onto Melrose. I mean, they'll wedge in there like a cork in a bottle.
So I think what you could do is, I think staff has heard your concerns. And speaking for staff, if I may, would be that that would be the condition that staff would impose unless there is some reason that we determine based on future need that there actually may be a problem with doing that. So my thought would be that you wouldn't amend this directly, but rather we understand the concern that we don't want to see deliveries there, but that staff would have the discretion if necessary for whatever, if there's a one-off reason that could be changed in the future.
Okay, fair enough. I know the North 101 specific plan also provides protections for Melrose.
If I may, a condition can be added. I was just asking for possible flexibility in the event there was something that came up.
Jess?
And then that holds true, excuse me, for the fencing request. There are multiple requests for a higher fence along Melrose, given the slope. I don't think it's going to be
During
that much of
construction,
an
right?
impairment between 8 and 10 feet, which is a request. I'm not a fence person, but
Yeah.
it seems like a reasonable neighborhood request. Is that something that we make a change in the resolution?
I think that would be okay to do.
Okay.
In your resolution, it says 50% native, but their presentation showed 90%.
Yeah, actually, it shows 64%
Will you
in the
update
staff
that?
report.
Well, we're not conditioning them at 90%. They're offering 90%. I mean, 50 is, I think, what we're allowed to ask. And
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I think the staff report mentioned 64.5%, but he's mentioned 90 in the presentation. Yeah. it's just-
So if you look at page 18, condition SSO01,
Of the.
of the draft resolution,
Yeah.
it already includes a condition that says before a grading permit is
time.
issued, that they have to submit a plan, and then I'm quoting, "Such plan shall include but not be limited to the following items as applicable: site location, owner info, 24-hour emergency contact information, safety and perimeter fencing, access locations, loading, unloading zones, on-site worker," and it goes on. So if you wish to amend that condition, you could, or you could leave it as drafted.
I will add, any fence over 6 feet requires design review, so you would want to make a statement that you're supporting a fence that's taller than that for the construction.
Okay, and then is that just 10 feet on the Melrose side and 6 feet on the other 3 sides? Or do I don't even have to count how many sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's in a rhombus, so 4 other sides. 5 others? I mean, do we have to be that specific? A 10-foot fence along Melrose and a 6-foot fence per code on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other locations?
So because these are not requirements of the applicant, if the applicant is amenable to this, then you can specify whether it be on which
Whatever
side,
street.
all
Okay.
sides.
All right. Thank you.
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, what was everyone's understanding for the height of the fence? To keep dust away? I'm just, they built a house next to me a couple of years ago, and they put up the 6-foot fence, and, it was, now it's a 26-foot tall house.
Right.
But I don't know if the taller fence would have helped.
Well, I was just responding to the citizens who were concerned about the height given the slope and requested a taller fence. It seemed
Yeah.
like a minimal request, given their support
think,
of the project, that's all.
I think I would put that as, I think we've got a very committed developer who seems to be all about community involvement, and I think we could make that as a request, and you could probably swing that. And I see one of the principals nodding his head, yes, that sounds reasonable.
That sounds great.
I don't want to micromanage the entire project.
No.
It's tempting, but tedious.
Again, just talking to what the statements made by the residents.
Nope, I totally, I'm not even sure who to ask. Mr. Hicks shared some pictures that I took myself when I was out there earlier. You can see where the property line ends in Melrose, and then there's this big old dirt spot, which is big enough to park my car, with like a macadam blacktop buffer trying to keep the water from going away. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's where the sidewalk would be. Is that, who would be best to help me figure that out? And if we still have Mr. Hicks's presentation, he could possibly, we could pull that up and look at a couple of pictures. If not, I could probably text you a couple. Because it's pretty clear to me where the property line ends. I mean, it goes from the concrete to the blacktop. I could see the electrical poles, which are they're not supposed to be on private property at all, so they're in the right-of-way. So that tells me that all of that dirt and the little blacktop bump protecting water from coming in or going out is on the right-of-way. That's Encinitas Street. Yeah, I'm talking right along here. Yep. Almost better. Yeah, right where the red line goes right across the dirt. It's, yeah. Let's see, I don't know how to share this picture with anybody here. You got something for me?
Which picture would you like to share?
Well, can you pull up Mr. Hicks's presentation? He had photos of the Melrose frontage there.
Let's see.
Okay, yeah, that one's not much help.
And
I think there was a couple others, more modern photos. Yeah, right there. So, to our left, you see that black painted wall and that big old hunk of dirt. And you can look where the light pole is. If he had backed up another 20 paces, you would see the line of the property. This big, it's got to be 8-foot wide dirt patch with blacktop on the outside. I'm reasonably certain, looking at based on my site visits, that black wall is the edge of their property. So it's, yeah, so there it is on the left side. Here we are looking south, and that one building sticking up a little bit right next to the pole is actually part of the Shamrock mobile home development. and that white fence and the green coming out, that's kind of the edge of the property. So the road, it's just kind of, it goes a little weird here. So I just want to make sure, you know, here's one section, and honestly, I don't see how, if they're going to put 5-foot sidewalks there and they're going on the right-of-way, or they're going on their property? I think they're going on the right-of-way, 5 feet with a curb. Is that correct?
That's correct. What I can say is when the grading plan comes in, the staff is going to have to review the curb and the gutter and the new sidewalk are going to have to tie into the existing improvements and what is existing on-site, and when it goes off-site, and drainage is going to have positive flow. So it would have to be looked at when we see this come in.
Fair enough. I wanted to get this on the public record. A lot of people have asked questions about this, and I have no doubt that once we spell this out, the right things are going to happen. And my prediction is that some of that dirt will be gone and covered with sidewalk, and then the curb will actually be in a little bit from that black berm. So I'm unconcerned about this. I feel like the right things are going to be done, but I felt I owed it to everyone here to talk about it. Just so you know, we're paying attention. Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question for staff. So as part of the development, he's doing 4 very low units. Do the very low units count against our arena allocation?
Yes, they would count.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
You go.
Do we need to change the staff report on page 12 where we talked about 64.5% native plants and it's now much higher than that? Or is that just not an issue because the staff report is inconsistent with the presentation?
So by you stating it right now, it's part of the record, and
Okay.
the plans would be reflected, and we would look at the plans when it comes to the building permit.
Okay. Let's see. So a question, if he's doing the condo map and they could be for sale and he could decide as a business decision to make the residential units for lease, how do we, and he can build he can build it and he can decide, does he decide on his own, or is there any sort of city governance if he decides to then tomorrow and sell them versus lease them? Is there any way we track that? Do we really, is that a code issue, or is that just a business decision that the applicant makes?
It's a business decision. We can't require them to do for sale or for rent.
Right.
But we do track. We have housing tracking forms that they submit at the building permit issuance stage, which tells us if it's for sale or for rent.
So under the inclusionary housing element, we would know when they make a decision. Some of these units would be part of the inclusionary housing element, correct?
Correct.
And that's all 4 or 2 of the 4?
So all 4 would be counted because they are affordable units.
Okay.
So it's counting affordable units.
Got it.
So in the conditions of approval, it refers to the creation of a homeowners association that, so that's one of the conditions.
Okay.
So these conditions would have to be revised if they want to do something other than going condo.
Right, well, he doesn't have to implement the homeowners. You're saying that the resolution requires him to create a homeowners association whether he sells the units or not. I'm just trying to get the legal parcel
Yeah,
of
so
the switch.
so there are conditions, and among them, so specifically ST 28, that says a homeowners association needs to be formed.
Okay.
So they have to create the homeowners association. Whether they end up selling afterwards, that's their option.
Right. Okay. So that's part of the application, that's part of the resolution, that has to be created.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't read that deeply, missed it.
Can I dive deeper into this, Scott? So now they're doing this with a condo map so that they have the option of selling. I know Fox Point initially was an example where they were all rental and they had to come back to us to make it possible to sell. Now, they wouldn't have to come back to us. They mentioned they were hoping to lease these and not sell them. So they wouldn't, as the staff report is now, and they said, oh no, we doing the condo map to allow for different financing options, but we really would like to rent them instead. Does that come back to us again? I mean, do we need to nail that down? I feel like
it
going
wouldn't.
from rental
So
to sale is one.
If you think of it this way, if a property owner built 10 single-family units and decided that they wanted to keep owning every single one, and each one on is its own lot, whether they decide to sell that lot to somebody or whether they decide to rent it, they don't come to the city and say, hey, I'm renting. So it's the exact same issue here. The fact that it's a condo as opposed to a single-family dwelling doesn't really change that calculation.
Okay.
And it doesn't change it from a density bonus. It's just, to your example, it's the same. And they got their units, they're not using different density bonus laws for sale, because I
Well,
think we
there are-
looked at the Lennar
That's
site
interesting.
on Piraeus. That was a for sale project, and they kind of went down.
So there are different affordability tracks that you have to
Right.
go down, so requirements. So if the initial units are for sale,
Right.
then there's certain one set of
decision tree
required.
is over
right,
here.
exactly, as opposed to, it would be a different covenant if the initial units are not for sale, if they're going to be rented.
Right, so the question then is, in a situation that's fluid like this, and he needs this maximum flexibility, which I can appreciate, is the decision for the inclusion, or the affordable housing different for rental versus the decision tree for sale? And thus, does the resolution that we're approving account for that? I don't want to get caught in between.
Let me look through the reso and see if it
Okay.
has anything in it, and I'll get back to you.
Thanks.
My understanding is that at the point it's captured, it would be determined if it's a sale, for example, it's a real estate transaction, and the form is submitted to the city at that point, right? It's captured at that point of sale. But if it was a rental, it's captured in a different manner, but it's still captured.
Yes.
So for example, even though 4 of these units are inclusionary in perpetuity, and they will be always affordable, if some of the micro units happen to rent for a lower value, those could be captured as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering
That's
about
my
that.
understanding, how it works.
I see Attorney Hutter is here. I'm going to open public comment briefly.
Thank
Share
you,
with us
Chair
your
Doyle.
expertise.
Briefly, so to Mr. Porter's comment about the mechanism for density bonus, and I think to your question, Commissioner Pendergast, the density bonus that's earned for the very low income category is the same whether it's for rent or for sale. The city's obligation and what the applicant will do when they bring forward their building permit application is they will execute an affordable housing covenant for the project that will cover those 4 units. And the city's affordable housing agreement contains language that deals with either scenario, right? So if it's a rental, you have certain obligations in terms of certification. If you sell those units, which frankly almost no one does because it's super complicated, because there's then an equity sharing agreement that goes into it. But in that event, there's a separate set of restrictions. And typically in the city's form housing agreement, both scenarios are covered. And you're not even at that point required to commit one way or the other. I think to the last point that you made, Chair Doyle, and to Commissioner Sherrod's question, all of these units will count towards your RENA allocation. The very low income units will go towards the allocation of the very low income category. The rest of them will probably be somewhere moderate or above moderate, but they will all go towards your ultimate bottom line. So all 45 units will count. Does that answer everything?
And we do, I did confirm, condition H03 requires the developer to execute and record an affordable housing agreement along the lines of what he just detailed.
Thank you. So that's news that all 45 units qualify? I'm confused with, we have 4 that are inclusionary and they're deed restricted. Well, I didn't know that the other 45 work too.
Yes, the need is for the low income, but
Right.
we still count any housing. So you still have to accommodate moderate, above moderate, but it's the need that is the
need is-
low income.
The need assessment, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
I just have a couple things. just to talk about the project. So I actually really like the variety of the units too, and the very, very small units. I do think there's a need for that type of unit in our community. So I appreciate that there are 4 different, well, there's more than 4 sizes, but 4 types of sizes of units that are available for people to rent or maybe at some point own. As to the parking, I mean, I agree that it's overparked, and I know that's a business decision too, because you want to meet the needs of the people who are working and living there or visiting. My question as to whether or not it was going to be, people were going to have to pay to park if they were visiting to go to the businesses or the restaurants was really thinking about how the availability of that parking at a reasonable rate might affect the neighborhood. Because if it is, if you do have to pay to park there, if you go to the restaurant, then you might have more people circling the neighborhood trying to find street parking. So I know that that will ultimately be a business decision too, as to whether or not anybody who's visiting has to pay to park, but that was just my thoughts regarding the parking. I do like the idea of the left-hand turn lane, so I think that should be something that we should include. I really appreciated the comment about the hotel motel, and maybe the ability to make that the first thing that goes, because I think that the city and the people in the community would really appreciate the removal of that public nuisance that has become. So that's really all I have to say at this point.
I'd like to run this by everyone else sitting up here. I'm a little concerned about people exiting the parking garage going left to go towards Carlsbad. They're going to be looking over their left shoulder to see who's coming down the way. They're going to, but you know, to the right is the big uphill where cars are coming together. It's tricky, and why I was torn on this one. Should that be allowed or restricted?
You know, I'm
I was
okay with
just
it.
wondering
My vet
your
is right
thoughts are.
there. My vet is kind of really close
Oh,
to
yeah,
where this is.
yeah, I know where your vet
and
is.
And so, I mean, I'm pretty comfortable. I go to the vet a lot. My dog's 13. So I'm pretty comfortable making that left-hand turn. I mean, I think it's comparable to any kind of left-hand turn you're going to make out into a left-hand turn pocket. I'm not particularly concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a store in the Gold Coast, just south of Panican, and back in the day, we used to get people get T-boned leaving our parking lot about every 6 months or so. But you know, speeds have decreased. I think we have better visibility here. Looking out to the left, yeah, it's just a concern. I wasn't sure which way I felt here, but I wanted to feel what you guys had to say.
I think it's a good concern. I think there are other properties up and down the coast that turn left, and I'd hate to penalize this applicant for the inability to turn left when there's other locations that allowed that. So I think that if he's or they are willing to assist the city in restriping per the plan that was submitted, then I think that's a very good faith effort on behalf of the applicant to be a good community member.
Cool. I appreciate your feedback. I mean, I consider this, I used to call it the Keno's compromise, where there's a reason there's no trees out in the middle in front of Captain Keno's.
Right.
Because, you know, we knew that would put a serious crimp on his business. That was only one I really had that needed. Love the micro units, probably going to be rental, extra parking spots in 101. I think we agreed that the tall construction fence we would do as a recommendation, and I believe that we already have a responsive developer who's probably going to work with the neighbors on that. Question is, do we put a condition on the Melrose construction truck or construction traffic, and then you know, put in a little wiggle room so that if it's something where they just have to get in there, that's the only way. But is that a condition, or would we go as more another recommendation and hope?
I believe that Mr. Porter mentioned GR 10 in the report that says that I think it goes to, most of the traffic goes on to PCH. Is that correct? On the staff, in the resolution, GR.
Let me pull that up again.
Grading in Hall route. He has to submit, the developer shall submit and receive approval from Development Services Department on the Hall route.
Yeah.
And I think there was some other reference in a document that I read that it needs to go to the busier, the street that can handle it. I think as part of one of the conditions, maybe they could clarify that statement that I.
And I
that I've
think
read.
you're right. I think if it does turn out to be a problem, I know, what do they call it? The Myers property, the one off Clark Ave.
Right.
That wasn't initially, the construction was not conditioned that way, but due to complaints by the neighbors, they did put up signage. And Fox Point Farms also has.
Was that a condition on Fox Point Farms?
We did not have a condition on Fox Point Farms, but well, actually, we did have a condition on Fox Point Farms, but the signage went out. I mean, people, the developers generally are responsive. I mean, nobody wants to get their truck. I pity the fool who takes a truck down Melrose.
Right.
It's,
There was one other reference that the applicant made regarding support for public schools, and the art community volunteered that opportunity to the city residents. Is that something that is codified in a document? I'd love to be able to have annual support. I mean, I already know that the applicant does that personally, but on behalf of the ownership, is that something that's codified in the resolution, or is it just, how is that request handled?
It's my understanding that was a private agreement with the neighbors and the applicant.
Okay. The only comment is I think they've done a great job. They've reached out over the years, taken a project and has morphed into 3 different iterations at probably significant cost. He seems to have included the neighborhood and the community in his plans, and the city, offering to, I think there were some other comments about streetscape, that he was going to incur some cost on his own for streetscape, which again is a great sign of commitment to the community, that he's willing to undertake that, or they are willing to undertake that. I say that he, because Adam came up, but the applicant has stated that they're going to put sidewalks in where there aren't sidewalks. He's putting street striping in where there isn't striping. Yes, to his benefit, but also I think it's a benefit to the community too. So they're doing a good job here. Like to have had 49 units with one more affordable, but I'm not the math major as it relates to the development and the architect to lay it all out. If we're going to get the density bonus, I'm always in favor of, if you're going to use the bonus, go all the way and give us the bonuses. You already have a fixed site, and 49 might be too much to fix in, but if that gives us one more unit for arena allocation, then
that would be sweet.
That would be sweet. But I understand 45 is the application.
Yeah, it's the project in front of us. It's not a housing element site, although it's going to benefit us in a lot of ways. I'd entertain a motion on this. I think we've reached consensus.
Move to approve with staff conditions.
And which conditions? We just went through this with, do we do the condition with the no Melrose trucks, or do we count on, I thought we kind of agreed that the grading Hall route, GRD 10 would handle that, and that was, and as soon as they get into 2324.410, then they run smack dab into all the restrictions on Melrose traffic. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd put a friendly amendment. Let's just leave that condition off. I don't think we need to really.
That's great.
I'll second your motion then.
What about we can
keep discussing.
The striping,
The left-hand turn.
the left-hand turn lane.
So if you wanted to add that requirement, what you could do in condition SCD 1, it is on page 12 of 31. Currently, it says the applicant shall submit a signing and striping plan for Coast Highway 101 to the satisfaction of the city engineer. you could add the following sentence: such plan shall include the applicant paying for creation of a dedicated left turn lane for the northbound direction of Coast Highway 101 to allow turns into the project's parking.
That was beautiful, Scott.
Okay, I'm sure you memorized it.
Yes.
I think somebody's recording it.
Okay.
And Esteban, did you get that?
We have it recorded.
All right.
And I assume that the applicant's okay with that? Yes. Okay, thank you.
And so a friendly amendment to this motion then, Susan?
I have a question, though. Where did we leave it with the 10-foot fence?
That's a,
Because I'm actually okay with leaving that up to the applicant to determine the height of the construction fence as needed.
I think that's where we left it. We recommended that they work with the neighbors to come up with the proper size fencing, and they've already shown a history of performing that way.
Okay, great, thank you.
Well, we've got a motion and a second, and the vote's in front of us. And I'm going to lead it off there. All right. The motion passes with 4 yes votes, and Commissioner Dalton is absent. So that's it. We're done with this one. Good luck to you all, and thank you. And Adam, I'll have someone from the Leucadia Main Street Association reach out to you. Oh, Stacy is awesome. We'll let the hubbub go a bit while we sort through our papers, and I'll find the next step. Say that again? Okay. Excuse me, we are still having our meeting continues, even though this item is done. So let's let the hubbub die down just a bit. Look at all this paper I got for this. See if I can find the last page of mine. Lost the last page of my script.
I just wanted to say thank you again.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We're still on.
We will work. We don't want any trucks down there either.
Their meeting is still beginning, so they're still talking, still delivering.
I found it.
Sorry.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on. Woo-hoo. I don't want to just start wailing away with this hammer, but I will. Hey, guys, let's, up here on the dais, let's, no, is my mic not on there?
As far as future items, I have a comment to make. I mean, here we are, we're in October. What is happening with items on our work plan? I don't think we've brought any forward, and I'm concerned. We're running out of time this year.
Well, I know last year we prepared a detailed work plan, which was to be presented to council by our chair, who was then removed from his seat. And for whatever reason, I wanted to go and present our work plan. I never got the opportunity. And I'm not even sure when was the last time we've looked at our work plan.
It was last year, and, you know, we've just had some changing in staff. So we will be bringing it forward in 2024.
Cool. We'll get back on track. It was a tumultuous time, as you lived through. I know.
Okay. I know we did have Jennifer Gates left, but that was a year ago. I mean, you know, and then we had new hires. I understand positions moved, but still, a year, come on.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys have heard that Roy Sapau has recently moved to the city manager's office, and we have a new director. His name is Kerry Kushak.
Mm-hmm. And Kerry's got a long history with Encinitas, and I've worked with him in the past. So he went away, and then he's retired, and now he's here again. So we're pretty lucky there, I think. And we'll get back on track. I would like to prioritize, I'll second that. The work plan is, you know, right now we're a reactionary group. Things happen to us and we respond, you know, whereas the work plan is the only time we really have a chance to like lay out priorities for us. And, you know, mostly they're priorities for council, but we try and slip in one or two for us.
I will be sure to prioritize that.
Thank you. Do we have any reports from the planning commissioners?
So as you know, Kevin and I think Susan also visited Fox Point Farms. And so I think we really enjoyed, Kevin and I really enjoyed our visit.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Good things are happening there.
Yes.
I'm really excited for that. It's going to be a great addition to our town.
They are running a couple months behind on their schedule, but they've had a lot of rain this year, and so that's probably why. But I thought that one of the really cool things was how they saved the water tower from Sunshine Gardens.
Oh, my God.
And they brought that over to their site, and they're going to be incorporating some of the other wood that they saved.
They're going to be bringing in the tortoise.
Yes.
The tortoise is like in temporary housing and will be living behind, between the restaurant and the farm.
Yeah.
And I hope they realize they do dig, and they're fast. But so they're going to have llamas, they're going to have
And they're going to have animals.
chickens. Apparently the llamas protect the chickens. They raise them together, and their llamas are nasty.
Yeah. I thought that it was a pretty amazing project overall when I saw the progress on it. And we walked through one of the completed units. Did you see? Yeah. Has ocean view. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And I ran into a neighbor when I took my son to one of the local pumpkin patches over on Manchester, and the comment she made is it's not affordable. And so I said, well, not all of the units will be affordable, and probably that model certainly won't be one of the affordable units.
I think
But
I asked a little bit about market rate just to find what ballpark, and I think it was $1.5 million for the carriage houses, $750 for the little one upstairs from the carriage houses, the ADU portion, and I'm not sure what the townhouses will cost, but it's not, I mean, I was like, ooh, $750 suddenly sounds cheap. I've lived here too long.
she's told me she's moving. She's leaving Encinitas.
A lot of people
She
are.
said
I mean,
it's too expensive. Her parents live in Santa Cruz and got burnt out in one of the wildfires, so they can't help the kids, you know, because they're already in distress. So I feel that while it's a good project, it's not an affordable housing project. So
it's always going to be a struggle. Let me see, I did have one other report, I thought.
You attended the Encinitas Academy.
Oh, yeah, well, the
I did
Encinitas
not make the
Academy
last one.
was kind of brilliant, and I hope anyone in the audience, you should look into this next time around, because I'm learning a lot. Things that I thought I knew, or things I knew I didn't know, and now I'm wiser than I was. I should have taken this 7 years ago.
Are they recorded?
They do have PowerPoint presentations.
Oh,
You
so
could
are
probably
those
get it.
online? Can we find those?
They're not online, but
Make a
I don't
request?
see any reason why we can provide it.
Seeing that I missed them, I would love to see those.
Can sign up for the next round, too.
I am going to, there's 2 more coming.
But they're not going to give you dinner to make up for what you missed.
I'll bring something. I'll bring a power bar. A quick question to someone. I think Susan has been involved. It's a question. Can I ask a question? Have they restarted the El Camino Real specific plan conversation?
Yes, I can look to see if there's anything on the calendar. but there was a shift in direction in the specific plan, so I believe that it's going to be ramping up soon. I don't have the timelines, but maybe the next hearing I can see if there are some timelines.
I can add that there was supposed to be a workshop 3 about now. And I don't think they have that planned because I haven't gotten any update about it, and I don't see any updates on the website. I think the last time we had the meeting, there was no update on the website until I emailed Melinda Darcy, I believe, and then she updated it. So I think that what I brought up a question at the Encinitas, what do we call the meetings we've been attending? Academy,
the
yes.
academies, yes.
And the person who's in charge of it now, who replaced Jennifer, said that they will be working on drafting a plan to bring to council for a vote. And then if that is approved, it would be voted on by the town, basically, by all of Encinitas in a measure A vote, I believe is what she said.
Not sure how a specific
Is that what she
plan
said?
gets.
Am I right, Anna?
So this specific plan, the shift in the direction with the specific plan will no longer require the vote of the people because it is not upzoning properties.
Because the state already came in and said you can build residential on commercial property.
Correct.
So the
Well,
Prop A vote is moot.
Will it come through at all, Planning Commission, or does it just go straight to City Council?
It comes through Planning Commission.
It does, so.
Yeah, we get a taste of everything. Hey, I had one, I spent a couple of hours watching and waiting for the Coastal Commission to get around to discussing the Maria Village project, which they have now approved. There was, the big holdup was the affordable hotel rooms, and how do you figure out who gets the affordable hotel rooms? And it's like, chances are it's just the first people there would get cheap rooms and everyone else would pay more. So as a compromise now, what they've done is they've completely separated the affordable hotel lodgings from this project. They're going to pay an in lieu fee of a little over $1 million, I think 1.15, and it's going to be, money is going to be donated to the city and managed by Destiny Preston, who's going to coordinate with Coastal, and going to go towards enhancing our affordable housing at places where it's possible to be affordable, like Cardiff campgrounds. So we have a lot of places where affordable temporary lodging can be had, but you know, at the Maria, Alila Maria, that's a bit of a stretch. And there's really no mechanism. And Coastal was just like, you got to come up with a way, and there is no way. So I was kind of happy to see that split away because it was held up this project for a year and a half.
We had a lot of conversation about that at the Planning Commission meeting, how that was going to, pondering how that might work.
Yep, so you basically remove it from the project and just make them give us a bunch of money. And as soon as they start, they can build that nice roundabout, they can do a lot of nice things.
So from a procedure standpoint, because it's not what we approved, do they have to come back? This is just me understanding the process.
My understanding is no. The project's not really changing. The only thing Coastal Commission was trying to Jimmy was like how those rooms were broken up and how many would be affordable. I don't think it needs to come back to us. I hope not.
So now the coastal development permit is Coastal Commission's, and we would just make sure that whatever changes are appropriate for the design review that we approved. So the design review is still the city's. And so if any physical changes visibly change, then we can either do a substantial conformance application, or if we think that a condition of approval needs to change, we would bring it before the Planning Commission as a modification.
So that's more for design review, but obviously the physical plant and the number of units didn't change. It was just the rental units in the hotel, but didn't we approve that? I mean, I understand that the affordable housing component was a big part of it, but we passed a resolution that had affordable units in the expansion or the development. and now there's no longer,
Well, but not, I misspoke. The residential, the rental units are.
Same.
They stay the same. And we're just talking, the change only happened to the hotel itself, that little 30-unit or 32-unit
but the approval
annex.
of the hotel itself and the units being affordable was a part of, I think it was part of our resolution, and if that's no longer part of the project because it's been negotiated out into an in lieu fee, that's fine. I'm just trying to understand the legal requirements of this.
All right, so
That's all.
Can coastal overrule us and just make it so?
Yes, so that requirement was specific to the coastal development permit piece. And so because the coastal development permit is now theirs, that condition wouldn't be applicable to the project. We would defer to the conditions in the coastal development permit through Coastal Commission.
Thank you.
So basically, they told us to do it, and
So I want to
then-
backtrack to the El Camino Real corridor
Fremont to be in lieu.
specific plan. Didn't she say they'd be soliciting public comment then for this new direction? I mean, if you're changing the direction of how it's going, I think, she said something about now is the time, to make public comment.
Yep, I think they're working away on it. They have many other projects on their list, so I'm sure that they're getting to it. But at the next hearing, I can see if I can pin down some more dates for you.
That sounds good to me.
That would be helpful because I think the website should be updated and the public should be updated on this.
Absolutely.
Do we have any other planning commission reports? Otherwise, I'm going to ask Anna Calamusi to give us a secretary's report.
Okay, so you handled the Maria Village one. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
yeah, no worries. Sorry to step on your toes
Oh,
there.
no, that was totally fine, no problem. The other one was just that Sage Canyon project did not get appealed.
Did not.
What about the Neptune Avenue?
It did not get appealed. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Did we ever get the monitoring of the bluff approved?
The monitoring of the bluff.
UCSD was gonna put a bunch of nodes in there, and they were gonna see if the bluff was slipping.
Well, they've done that at Beacons.
Did that ever go through, and is there a
They're
report
still
that
out
comes
there.
back?
It did. So
did?
they're in
Okay.
the construction documents are being reviewed at this time,
So, okay, got it,
moving forward.
moving forward.
And that's all I have.
We're adjourned till our next regular meeting on November 2nd, 2023. Thank you, everyone.
There'll just be one item.